Dude, something just moved my glasses on my head. What is it?
Dave just got scratched. Are you okay, man?
Oh my god. You heard that, didn't you?
You're good at pushing people around, oppressing people. Push me. Push me down these steps.
Have you ever had anybody that actually liked living in that cabin down there that didn't have bad things happen to them?
Everybody else, everybody gets it, laid it up, and down.
I mean, there's been a lot of people who have been in this cabin here, specifically died in this cabin, or died because they were in this cabin, they think. They think it's cursed, they think it's haunted, from what I understand.
I don't know, I just know that that cabin is a death trap.
People have died.
Yeah.
People that actually lived in this cabin, they left the property and they died because of that. They legitimately think there's a curse.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah. This certainly
This is the weirdest place I've ever been. Weirdest things that ever happened to me in, almost 20 years of investigating. This is the place where the weirdest stuff has ever happened to me.
Bad stuff happens in this cabin when you dig in the basement. This cabin will try and kill you when you dig in the basement.
You want to play hide and seek? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Where are you, Lucy?
As soon as he said 10.
Yes, as soon as he said 10, that thing stopped.
Exactly.
I have not, like you saw, I did not move any
No.
They just dead like that.
Immediately, as soon as he said 10.
What? That shows. I swear I just heard something. Ooh. What? I swear I just heard a whisper that say, I'm right behind you. No. I swear.
Because there's scratch marks on your back.
Up here?
Yeah.
There is.
Ryan, get over here, dude. You want to see this?
Are you
There's scratch marks on
there
your
is.
back, dude.
You know, that, like I said, that shakes, yeah, it shakes me up a little bit. I'll be completely honest, that shakes me up a little bit.
There we go. There we go.
Are you here now?
Make it stop.
Back up now! Renee, you told us over the phone that, was it 3 days after we left the cabin? You thought you were dying?
Yeah. I was home for a few minutes and the pain started in my chest. Then it started in my back and then it went down my arm to about here. And it was real deep and it was extreme pain. So
That's exactly symptoms of a heart attack.
Yeah.
That's really weird timing, and especially since medically you came back completely fine. It's really strange.
They found absolutely nothing.
That's really strange, and the timing, it's 3 days after we got back from the cabin. What is this?
That is the coin that ended up in my left pocket when we were finished filming in the basement. And so I know there was absolutely nothing in my pockets of my jacket. And when we finished filming down there and we walked up to the porch, I reached my hand in to get my vape and I heard something clank. And this was in my pocket.
The weirdest part about this coin, from what you see it's definitely something that we had never seen before. That coin is from Israel, which is really weird because none of us have ever been to Israel.
No.
And how this coin from Israel showed up in your pocket is really strange.
It's very strange.
I don't know, and then it's very strange that after you found this coin in your pocket, 3 days later you thought you were having a heart attack.
Right.
We just got finished with our interview with Renee. So we're going to take this coin and replace it with Steve because she wanted it to be given to Steve.
What?
She wants you to have this in the museum.
Is that coin that was in her pocket?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to be careful too because Renee kind of thinks that coin is what almost killed her.
So she wanted you to have it here for the museum instead.
So there wasn't ever really supposed to be a part 3 to the Cursed Cabin episode, and as I was editing part 2, I realized there was a lot of footage, a lot of things that happened that just wouldn't make sense in the episode because of the style we chose. We wanted it to be raw. We wanted you all to feel like you were there with us. So no voiceovers, no cutaways. It had to be as raw as possible for you to understand just the vibe, the feel of this cabin. But that meant a lot of the stuff that was more personal experience, a lot of the stuff that needed explanation got cut out because I am not even exaggerating. When we were in this cabin, there were times where we legitimately felt we were losing our minds.
No, I didn't say that successfully back to back.
No, there's like a whole section's missing.
There's like a whole section of my recording that's missing.
This cabin, whatever entities or energies are there, it felt like it just messed with us. And no matter how hard we tried to just kind of stay focused on the investigation and on the evidence and being as objective as possible, that things happened that just made us feel like we weren't even living in the real world. Like we had somehow stumbled into this alternate dimension, as weird as it sounds and as corny as it sounds, that we couldn't control. And that could control us.
No.
Dude, there's no reason. It's cut out.
It didn't happen that way.
No, we're missing time.
Yeah, it wasn't that close together.
This is important for you all to see, and these reflections that you're going to see really helped shape our own personal opinion about this cabin. And it's crazy.
Once we got off the main road and turned down onto the lane, from where the cabin was at, it's like the entire atmosphere changed. Like a timeless feeling, like a surreal feeling, and I'll have to admit it definitely just felt dreadful.
The cabin, arriving there, it was certainly a creepy place. And it was kind of freaky knowing some of the more obscure history of the cabin itself, but more so the stories of David, Pauline, Renee's experiences there in that same cabin years prior during their visits beforehand.
So then the room that almost killed us pretty much was in here. Heading back to the cabin was definitely a little bit surreal. From the things that had happened the first time we were there with the wood stove, it definitely set in a little bit of apprehension knowing that we were going back in, and there had been a fire before we were there that almost burned the building down, or the cabin down rather, and just knowing that evil, malevolent, if you will, force was still on the property there was just a little bit unnerving.
And knowing what I had tried to do to other people as well as them, it was certainly unsettling. But going in, it seemed to be at first eerily quiet. And after some time, it seemed that I began to pick up on more of an increasing threatening feeling or an intimidating feeling. I found myself a few times thinking, should we be in here? Should we leave this place? Should we even be here? We shouldn't be here.
I guess one of the first things that you can't really see and what we couldn't convey, you wouldn't have been able to tell just how much we were being affected by this particular cabin. And there was a point in the night when I started to feel particularly off.
He was acting a bit strange, a little bit out of character. He just seemed kind of taken back, a little bit, I don't know, reclusive. You want to go see if they got anything? Or see if they want to come up and chat?
Paulie and Renee and Jason were still in the basement. Dave and Steve went out on the porch, and I decided I was just gonna stay. I was just gonna stay in there by myself, which Paulie had always warned us, don't ever go anywhere in this cabin by yourself.
All got up to go together because we weren't going to be in here alone anywhere.
You shouldn't be by yourself.
And over the next couple of minutes, I just felt myself kind of immersing myself into the vibe and the energy of the cabin. And I didn't realize it until I watched the footage back in the editing process, but there was a point when I was in that bedroom by myself that I stood in the same spot for about 8 minutes straight. Didn't move, didn't say anything, didn't look up, didn't even at the time realize where I was.
And after walking into the cabin, I think I found him into the bedroom area where they had like the box spring on the floor and everything. After I approached him and after I believe said something to the effect like, "How are you?" or "What's up?"
What you got going on, brother? You got so much worried.
Huh?
You got so much worried. You alright?
Yeah, I'm good.
What kind of song?
He seemed to kind of pull out of a type of state of mind he was in. And of course, after watching the footage, he definitely seemed like he was being affected by something in there.
I don't know. I still don't know to this day what that was and why it didn't escalate further than that. But it was weird. It was very, very weird, and it was very unsettling.
I definitely think one of the interesting attributes of this location we're investigating, again, was just what seemed like the absence of time.
Time seemed to just drag on, so much more than in reality actually had transpired. We were there maybe a little over 12 hours, and it felt as if we had been there for days.
Which is very subjective when you think about it, but it's interesting because it seemed as though the energy of this cabin played on that subjective quality, that subjective emotional quality.
It was so noticeable that at one point, all 6 of us actually experienced it simultaneously. We were in the basement. This was getting a little bit late, and we were doing a session. And there came a point when Ryan more or less, I believe, he had lost his balance or something.
And I specifically remember because we had just heard it was like a mumble hum type situation, which ended up being Renee. But that happened, and I had lost my balance. I fell back, and after I caught my balance, in my mind and in the moment, I remember apologizing for falling, saying my balance was thrown off there. And then there was a long pause before I heard this hum, mumble, whatever you want to call it.
Did you guys just whisper something? Ladies, you didn't whisper anything?
Yeah.
Which was really strange because when we played back the digital voice recorder, we were shocked because it happened in succession. You hear me fall backwards, say, "Oh, I lost my balance," but then it was, "Oh, did you hear that?" Immediately.
No, I didn't say that successively back to back.
No, there's like a whole section's missing.
There's like a whole section of my recording that's missing.
No.
Dude, there's no reason. It's cut out.
It didn't happen that way.
No, we're missing time.
Yeah, it wasn't that
Hey, wait a minute. There's time missing on that recorder. There was a malfunction. There seems to be 20, 30 seconds of time missing on this audio. What just happened to that point that it seems like something happened to the audio, like there was a lapse of time? And of course, video is what it is. And watching back on the video, we can realize that there is no lapse in time. There was none.
Ooh. My balance was thrown off there. Did you guys just whisper something? Ladies, you didn't whisper anything?
Yeah.
It felt as if, and all 6 of us had felt this at once, that more time had transpired than what I actually had.
And there was no time. It was successive. It happened immediately. I lost my balance. I fell backwards. When I regained my balance, we heard the noise and asked about it. And I have no idea how we could have completely imagined, hallucinated that time being there in between, and how when all of us reviewed it, we could be so adamant, so absolutely sure that that time was there, that we were willing to document it, check the settings on the recorder even.
Wait, listen.
Do you have the active voice thing on?
No. Go in here, and this is the voice activation. It's off right now.
We just lost.
Go show them it's off.
Okay.
It doesn't even make sense the way that sounds.
I will show you. This setting is off. If you don't believe me here, it is off. The voice activation is off. That is the way it's been set. And there's a whole section of that recording that is just missing.
And it disoriented us in that way. Whatever was in this cabin was so strong, so powerful, and certainly in that moment, that we were able to all experience that.
It was like the mind games, and we didn't even know it. It was messing with us, and we didn't even know it.
Wait, what?
You passed it. No way.
No, I didn't say that successively back to back. did I?
No. There's like a whole section's missing.
There's like a whole section of my recording that's missing.
No.
Dude, there's no reason. It's cut out.
It didn't happen that way.
No, we're missing time.
It's really weird because it seemed like the cabin implanted itself in our brains before we even made it there, with Steve and Jason having these dreams that connected to the cabin.
So when we first found out that we were going to be filming at this location, Jason was telling us about a dream that he had, which oddly enough tied back into an experience that Mom and I had the first time we were there.
Probably about a month ago, a couple weeks after we first started planning this trip here to the cabin with you all, we're at the house in Wheeling, and I was asleep, and I began having what I thought was a dream. I couldn't see any pictures, but I was hearing this very disturbing voice. It sounded like it was in pain, almost like a mix between a scream or a groan, moan. Basically, it was just, and it just kept going like that for like 2 or 3 minutes straight. And it was very unsettling sounding, very disturbing sounding. It sounded like it was right here in my ear, very loud. And I kept hearing this until finally, what felt to be a few minutes, I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, even though the lights were out in the room, I could barely see over by the door leading into our hallway. There was this tall, slender, solid dark shadow that was moving right to left, moving very slowly, very smooth movement. It was almost like its neck was bent down, just kind of looking down. It moved probably about 4 or 5 feet. I saw it move from inside the living room into the hallway, and I'm watching this thing moving. No sound with it. But again, I started seeing it as soon as I opened my eyes and that groaning, screaming noise stopped. I thought it was Dave, and I kind of made a little noise thinking. I said something thinking it was Dave, for him to acknowledge, and I didn't hear anything back. And I thought, I was half awake anyway, and I thought, I discredited it, and I looked in at the stove, at the clock. It was 3:39, and I'm just not one to typically wake up in the middle of the night and see something like that. I know some people have things like that. I don't have visions. If so, that would have been the first one in my life that I had when I just wake up. And when I told you all about that earlier, the same sound, I recreated that sound I was hearing. Y'all had an effect from it, your reaction, because you said, wait a minute, that's exactly like what you heard that night.
It was horribly loud. And he was screaming as loud as he could scream. But we thought he was, just pretty drunk and he was just screaming at a TV, but there was no TV in here. No radio, nothing.
Spiritually wise, it was very oppressive. And my take on that, it definitely has something demonic there.
It seemed like after we left, we had the investigation, we had the experience, and then after we left, it continued to be on our brain and on our minds, and it's like every time you think about it, every time you start talking about it, strange and unusual things start happening around us, from seeing shadow figures moving to hearing footsteps. When I was editing the episode, constantly, the edit bay where I work is in our house. I had a lot of creepy stuff happen. I took breaks from editing, and I heard footsteps run through my bedroom, through the bathroom, and almost out into the kitchen. And then I heard a voice, I heard like a laugh, just a few minutes after that. It's just, I don't know, there's something weird with that cabin, and I can't explain it. And I don't know if I want to. I really don't know if I want to.
I do know prior to the investigation, about a week or so beforehand, I had a very vivid dream. It really bothered me because it included one of my best friends I was in this, what would seem like a one-story house, but all I could see was just what was in the immediate area around me within 10 to 15 feet. And for some odd reason, I had this paper ball, this little crumpled up piece of paper, and I would throw it, and it would come back to my hand. And then when I throw it, it would go into the recesses of like the dark area of the room of the house. I couldn't see it, but it would come back to my hand. And then the next thing I realized, I'm in the same room, but I'm standing up, pretty much the same area. But Dave was actually standing in front of me with his back to me. And as I reach out to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Dave," he turned around real fast and looked at me. And when he's looking at me, his eyes were just solid black. He was talking to me in a voice that was very deep, had a very almost electronic, tinny type of raspy sound to it. It was very hard to describe. It was very, very unsettling. And then I woke up shortly after. This is one of the few dreams that I've had it'll haunt me for the rest of my life.
There was a point when we were actually in the living room. We were doing a session. There had been a little bit of provocation, and the REM pod was on the mattress. It had never went off the entire night. And it goes off for the first time. It begins to trigger. And we've been around it many times going off. I've seen it. And this time was so much different than anywhere else, because when that REM pod went off, an overwhelming sense of what I could just overall call dread, negativity, just came over me.
There we go. There we go.
And I felt like, deep down my gut was telling me I need to get out of here.
Are you here now?
But while this is happening and I'm picking up on this, there was almost as if a tension headache directly behind my eyes that started, and it increasingly got worse the more this REM pod was going off. And I got very apprehensive about the whole situation, and I was thinking about actually stepping out, and I thought, no, I'm going to wait. And moments later, of course, I had actually gotten scratched.
Because your scratch marks on your back.
Up here?
Yeah.
There is.
Ryan, get over here, dude. You want to see this?
Oh my, yeah.
There's scratch marks on your back.
No, they're there. They're there.
Is it well?
With or without a light.
Yeah, they're starting to welt. Mm-hmm.
You are.
Don't move. One, two, three.
But to be already feeling a sense of threatening feeling, intimidation, or what some people would call oppression, and then be physically attacked, so to speak, that is, it's very personal. And like I say, it really did shake me up a good bit, but it's how the cabin, it seems to affect a person personally. It seemed to affect us all personally, affecting us physically and the states of mind we were in.
But still, the most bizarre experience, the most bizarre phenomena that took place at this cabin would most definitely have to be with that coin that Renee found in her pocket.
And so I know there was absolutely nothing in my pockets of my jacket. And when we finished filming down there and we walked up to the porch, I reached my hand in to get my vape and I heard something clank. And this was in my pocket.
The coin is definitely far outer space type of weird. It's something that I've never witnessed anything like that before. It's very weird how it ended up in her pocket. She was very adamant that she had never seen the coin before, that she never put the coin into her own pocket, and that when she found it, she did seem very surprised. It was authentic, it was genuine.
But as we were downstairs, I was asking some questions, and every time I would look over towards Renee, I was picking up on more of a male presence. Very threatening, intimidating almost. And it was so noticeable and so palpable that I was so uncomfortable by the whole feeling, I stopped looking at her. I strayed away from looking her, even her direction. And whether it was related or not, shortly after we had finished the session, we actually had stepped out. Renee is digging in her pockets, and she said, "What is this?" And had found a little coin that somehow just physically manifested in her jacket pocket, and had never seen it before in her life. Certainly hadn't had it, of course, on her person that evening. And said, "Where in the world did this come from?" And it was during the time we were in that basement when it had came to be inside her jacket pocket.
What I found interesting is what a friend of mine sent to my messenger. It's in the Bible, the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verses 15 through 16. "The first offering of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem every firstborn son and every firstborn male and female, if you will, of unclean animals. When they are a month old, you must redeem them at a redemption price set at 5 shekels of silver."
And after we were looking at it, and we were just so astonished and just shocked by this, and certainly Renee was. I mean, Renee was genuinely just so utterly shocked by this coin. You could just tell. She's like, "What in the world?" And so we were so intrigued by this. Steve had actually recognized that the coin was an Israeli coin. And being from Israel and showing up in her pocket right then when it did and where it did, just the fact that that happened is crazy.
I have no idea whether the two are connected. Renee's mysterious health condition that she felt made her feel like she was having a heart attack, and this coin, I don't know if they're connected, but it's very bizarre that she was the one that found this coin in her pocket. And when she went home, she had a very interesting medical episode that left her in the hospital overnight and left her wondering whether she was actually going to die of a heart attack.
I was home for a few minutes and the pain started in my chest. Then it started in my back, and then it went down my arm to about here, on the underneath part of my arm. So
that's exactly symptoms of a heart attack.
Yeah. So right away I thought, oh, I better get going. I better get to the emergency room.
Maybe something that was attached to the coin or had some sort of likeness to that coin in a previous life, or maybe just an entity that is attached to the cabin had made some sort of attachment to the coin.
I don't know what this coin is. I don't know whether it carries any energy. I don't know whether this coin has any special connection to that cabin. The only thing I know is Renee found this in her pocket, and we got to find out more about it. So we're going to have to do a session here tonight to try and communicate with whatever energies are attached to this coin and to find out if it is the one that tried to kill Renee, or if it is the one that kills people in that cabin. As you can see, we have this setup going. The coin is going to go onto this mirror that is in front of us, and to make sure we can see the coin as well as when the REM pod goes off, we have a camera right up here, and it is pointed directly at this mirror, and it will be able to see the coin pretty visibly. So I don't know, we're ready. Are you guys ready to find out whether or not this coin actually has some energy to it?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see what happens.
So let's go ahead and get this going. Let's go, lights out.
All right. So Steve, you want to go ahead and dump that thing out there?
Yeah. This is going to be the coin that Renee found in her pocket that she believes actually had some influence, maybe might have some connection to her medical issues that she had after we left the cabin. So I don't know. We'll find out in real time with you all. So far we're rolling on audio. We have a PSP-7 spirit box, and we have a REM pod as well as another proximity meter behind us.
I've been hearing several noises back there.
Yeah, sounds like something's moving around back there.
Maybe the energy from the coin is starting to interact with the energy that's already in the room.
Interact or interfere?
Either or.
Could be. So.
This was on, you said?
It is on, yes. All I know is that this coin has a really strange vibe to it.
Yeah, I have a weird sense of being at the moment. I don't know. It's odd.
Yeah, ever since we put it on that mirror, it's gotten a little bit of a different, I almost feel like I got a little bit of a headache going on, which is strange because during the investigation, right before Jason was scratched, he actually complained about feeling like he was getting a headache or that there was a pressure in his head right before he got scratched. So, I don't know, maybe the energy of the cabin's already here. We're speaking to the entity or energy that's attached to this coin right here. The first thing we want to know, and you can say it out loud so we can capture it on recording. Here in a minute, we're going to turn on a device that will allow us to hear you when you speak. We want to know why Renee found this coin in her pocket. Can you tell us why you put it there?
Like something touched my finger.
Did it?
Yes. It's just like.
Huh. Yeah. All right, did you touch Dave's finger? Are you already starting to mess with us?
Something metal, metallic. It might have been the doctor's chair.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Let us know you're here by doing this. Can you do that? If this is too close, there's one right back there. You can do the same thing.
Just like at the cabin, when it was laying on the mattress on the box springs. There we go. There we go. Now you figured out how to use it. Do it again.
Are you here now?
There we go.
Something feels off, but if this makes sense, it feels like something feels like it's off, but it doesn't feel like it's here.
Well, this could be something that I mean, it's one thing that they were dealing with is it may not even be an intelligent entity. It might be just the energy of that curse. You know what I mean?
Could be.
And maybe that energy of that curse, or at least a little part of that, is attached to this coin, but it's not something that can intelligently communicate.
Could be.
And or the keys. And or the keys. And or the keys.
So there's a device right here that if you speak loud enough, it will be able to hear and pick up your voice. We'll be able to hear you if you talk through this.
What's your name?
Can you tell us what this coin represents? What is it? And why did Renee find it in her pocket?
Can you repeat that?
What does this coin represent? What?
I don't know, just there for a minute I was just kind of listening, and it sounded like when we were on the front porch of the cabin and all you could hear was the crickets and the rain.
Yeah.
And so for a second it was just like I could hear that. It was really, really weird.
If we were to go back to the cabin, what would you do to us?
Are you here with us? Let us know. Whoa.
If you were attached to that coin, talk to us now, or we're gonna go back down there to that cabin and we're gonna bulldoze it.
Okay. Burn it to the ground. Weird choice of words. I wonder if Lucy is attached to this in some way.
Hello, Lucy? Do you want to play hide and seek? If I count to 10, will you hide and then let us know where you are after we hit 10? How about let's start off with the speaker. I'll count to 10. You hide inside. That was a little girl's voice, dude. I just got the most chilling.
I couldn't make it out.
We'll have to play that.
You hide inside. You hide inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Where are you, Lucy?
Right here.
That's what I thought it said right here.
Right here?
It was a male.
Yeah, it was a
That
male.
was not the Lucy, can you tell us how old you are? Just give us a number. What was that?
What do you guys think? You think we should destroy this coin?
I think we should. Here, let me hold both this and that and see if there's a connection. If I hold this coin, what'll happen to me? Will you enter my body? Or will I be cursed?
Whoa.
What?
Just felt like something knocked on the table right there.
I felt that. I thought that was you, though.
No, that was not me. That was not me.
That's weird. The recorder's right over there beside it, so it should pick it up.
Whoa. Whoa.
What?
If that was you, do it closer to this. Okay, I'll even move it up that way.
Was Renee supposed to keep this coin?
Not cool.
Sorry.
Not cool. You're not even gonna drop it.
Was she supposed to keep that coin? And there's a lot of ancient folklore relating to a Dybbuk Is that what's at that cabin? Is that cabin a giant Dybbuk box?
There's a strong spirit attached to the museum that's blocking communication. Can you please step back and let us communicate?
What did that say?
I'm not sure.
Either way, it's bad.
What is your name?
Jesus Christ, that scared the shit out of me.
Not as bad as you dropped a coin.
Oh, God.
Do we need to take this coin back to where we got it? Does it need to go back to the cabin? Does it say yes?
There's a woman.
What will happen if we take it back to the cabin?
We need a clear answer. Do we take the coin back to the cabin or not?
If the coin was put in her pocket on purpose, here's the reason.
Yeah.
Or
Why did you put the coin in her pocket?
If it's bad, I think it should stay here, where it's away from her. If it's good, it should go back. But then again, we have to make sure for certain that it indeed is good for her.
Right.
Because she had it on her when she had her heart situation. I would be very apprehensive of introducing that back to her in her life.
Right. I agree. I don't know. I don't think we should trust it to give it back to her.
No.
And I don't think she would take it. That's the problem. I do not, after what she said when we talked to her about her health issues, after what she said. Now, I think also one thing that nobody said yet, something that we need to also take into consideration is that the coin was, because obviously the manifestation of the coin can't be ignored. That's weird, that's unexplained, that's super strange. Mm-hmm. But what if there's nothing attached to the coin? What if the coin was just a message? What if there is no entity here with it? What if there is nothing attached to it? What if it's just a coin? And the coin is what it was always intended to be, and that is a coin.
It's either that or it's whatever is attached to it, in my opinion. It comes and goes as it wants to, and it doesn't really care what we think or say.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we had a comment on the part 2 of this episode, and the gentleman said, you don't realize, basically he said you don't realize what you've done by calling this out, that you'll call it out and tell it to hurt you now, but it's not going to do it. When you want it, it's going to work on its time, something that we've always said from the beginning. You know, there's no concept of time, especially in this situation.
Obviously, we lost.
Yeah. And
that's something I've always believed in.
Maybe this is something that we're going to have to wait for.
Alright, coin and whatever is attached to it, cabin, entity, demon, whatever you are, we're signing off. So you gotta stay with that coin there, buddy. And all of us are out of bounds. So
our families, our belongings, you cannot attach to us. Our families, belongings, anything. You stay with the coin, just as Dave said.
And if you want to try and kill me, good luck.